Rabbi Zagwi, I'd like to add my good wishes also for your hatzlacha in your shlichus. I would like to address a specific issue, and that is AI, the technology of artificial intelligence, and how it's connected to Mashiach. Now, I want to start with a very unusual starting point. A Farbrengen in the 1960s in Lud, and the Mashvier, the Shlomo Chaim Kesselman, was Farbrengen with the Bachrim, and he said, in the 60s, remember, he said that they will never be able to invent a machine, although man's ingenuity, we could invent all sorts of machines, they will never invent a machine that can daven for you. That's what he said. So a little bit before then, 1943, there was an American Jewish psychologist by the name of Abraham Maslow, and he published a paper where he described what's known as Maslow's hierarchy. So Maslow's hierarchy is that there's a hierarchy of needs. There's different levels that a human being needs. Starting off with physiological needs. A physiological need is something that a person needs pasha to survive. So to eat, to drink, sleep, shelter from the elements. These are things that if we don't have these things, we cannot survive for very long. But once these needs, these basic human needs are taken care of, then you can move up the hierarchy. So then there's more sophisticated needs for safety and security, needs to feel that you belong, need to establish families, to have positive, good relationships with other people, with your families, with your community. And so each level of Maslow's hierarchy, as you take care of something lower down in Maslow's hierarchy, then you have you free yourself up to start worrying and to start focusing on a higher level of the hierarchy, and it culminates in what's called self-actualization, what Maslow called self-actualization and transcendence. Self-actualization means that you become the best person that you can be, and transcendence means you reach out to something ruchnius, something that is beyond your physical nefesh abahamis, beyond all the needs, the selfish needs, but something that reaches out to something transcendent. And I think that, I've been thinking about AI and these technologies for some time now, probably since they came out, so a long time now, 8 months, actually. So ChatGPT is 8 months old. It's mind-boggling because it's already changed so much of the world. But I was doing a thought experiment, and I was thinking, imagine a world, and I don't believe that this world is decades away. I think we're talking years, if not months in some instances. And the change, the speed of change is just increasing rapidly. And I think that there'll come a time when very shortly, when food could be planted, could be tended to, could be harvested, could be delivered. You could order that food online. It could be delivered by a drone to your house. And not a single human being could be involved in that whole supply chain. And not a single expensive salary could be spent in that entire supply chain. So in other words, technology, computers, AI could do all of that, much more efficiently, by the way, than human beings could do it. And could drive it to a central place, a distribution center, everything, all without the involvement of a single human being. So what's going to happen is that more and more of the lower levels of Maslow's hierarchy are going to be taken care of. So what do we do when we don't have to do anything to sustain ourselves physically? And I think the answer is we start working on our avodas Hashem, because as Reb Shlomo Chaim Kesselman said, they'll never make a machine. Artificial intelligence will never be able to daven for you. And the Rebbe encouraged us overtly and by his example to look, obviously we're not the Rebbe and we can't do this at this level, but the Rebbe certainly encouraged us to look at things, developments that are happening in the world, And with those developments, to try and understand how they point to Yemois HaMashiach and how they point to the imminence of Mashiach's arrival. Whether those are political developments, whether they're technological developments, as I've discussed, developments in healthcare. You look at these developments and you see in them the signs that we are nearing Yemois HaMashiach. And I think as AI rapidly increases the rate of change and takes over more and more of the dreary, dull human functions that we have traditionally, human beings have done it, it'll free us up to focus on the inyanim of that we should focus on when Mashiach comes. The Rebbe said, once compared in a sikha how an airplane flies to how a space rocket in the vacuum of space flies. And the Rebbe said an airplane flies through resistance. When the airplane meets resistance, air resistance, that allows the airplane to soar. But when a rocket ship breaks free of the atmosphere, breaks free of the air, there's nothing to resist it. So it has to create its own propulsion. It has to be able to push itself forward. And the Rebbe said that that's the difference between Galus and Geula. Galus is going to be, Galus we grow by struggling and fighting the opposition to Kedusha. But when Mashiach comes, then we will have to create our own impetus. All of the fight, all of the struggle is going to be taken care of for us, and all that's going to be left is for us and our own avodas Hashem. I started by quoting a mashpia. I'll quote another mashpia, my mashpia. Reb Mendel Futterfass, his name was Menachem Mendel ben Menachem Mendel. The reason he was called after his father is his father passed away from typhus while his mother was pregnant with him. So when he was born, he was given the name of his father. And so, without a father, he was raised primarily by an aunt and his grandparents. And his grandparents happened to be relatively well-to-do. They were well off financially. And as a result, relatively well off financially. So as a result, Reb Mendel had shoes. He was bought in the summer, even in the summer, his grandparents bought him shoes. Many of his friends couldn't afford that luxury, so in the summer they went around barefoot. This is you're talking when they were 4 or 5 year old kids. So Reb Mendel, at 4 or 5 years old, turned to his grandfather and he said to him, Zaidi, I have a question. His grandfather, what's the question? He said, I don't understand why you buy me shoes and I wear the shoes and they become worn out. Over time, the shoes wear out to the point that you have to replace them by purchasing another pair of shoes. But my friends who don't have shoes, they walk around on barefoot, on the soles of their feet, and nobody ever has to replace their feet. And a 4-year-old child, he turns to his Zayda and he wants to understand what is the reason that shoes need to be replaced regularly, but human feet don't. L'chura, they should wear out at the same rate. So his grandfather answered him, because the soles of a human foot is a lebedikazach. Un a lebedikazach is abek. It's alive. And if it's alive, it's true, it's real, and it's eternal. And what that means is that we have artificial intelligence and we have genuine intelligence. The difference between artificial intelligence and genuine intelligence, true intelligence, human intelligence, is not how brilliant it is, how much knowledge it encompasses, how efficient it is. Because let's face it, unfortunately, if you put a human being against artificial intelligence will win. They've already got artificial intelligence writing medical exams, writing law exams, and they do much better than a human being could do already now, even 8 months into this experiment. They are far superior. So they're going to make much better doctors than human beings are. What's that? Not davening, no. They're going to make better doctors than human beings. They're going to make better lawyers than human beings. But they will never be able to self-actualize a human being. That is going to be up to you and me. We are lebedei kazach. Because we are lebedei kazach, as Reb Shlomo Chaim Kesselman said, they'll never daven for us.
they'll never be able to be Mesaken our Midos. They'll never do our Avodas Hashem. That will always be us. And in fact, these technologies will bring about a taste of Yemois HaMashiach, as the Rambam describes, where there won't be any of the physical Maslow's lower hierarchy that we need to accomplish. Those things will all be taken care of us. And when those things are taken care of us, we will be able to grow and excel spiritually, which is our avodah. And the Rebbe often tells us that our avodah in Zman HaGolus is a harbinger and a prerequisite and a taste of what will be when Mashiach comes. We bring about the reality of Mashiach brick by brick through building it through our avodah in Golus. And if that's the case, then the lesson is that we have to live, open our eyes and see that we can already live in a world where all of the lower levels of Maslow's hierarchy are taken care of, and therefore we can dedicate ourselves, but really dedicate ourselves to integrating Torah into our mind, to integrating Avodah and Kedusha, and to daven properly, and to really focus on those things and allow the technology to take care of all of the other elements of our lives that we had to take care of before.
Right.